Our top story now, fresh cases of Omicron have been reported from 3 states yesterday. That's Maharashtra, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Maharashtra reported 4 new cases on Wednesday, while Tamil Nadu has reported its first case of Omicron. Kerala also reported 4 fresh cases of the new variant, and with this, India's Omicron tally is around 69. Now, first, in Maharashtra, 4 more people have been found to be infected with the new variant in the state, taking the state's total tally to 32. That's the highest in the country. 2 are from Osmanabad, 1 from Mumbai, and 1 patient from Buldhana. Authorities have said the patients from Osmanabad travelled to Sharjah. The patient from Buldhana had travelled to Dubai, and patient from Mumbai had travelled to Ireland. All the cases are asymptomatic. So far, 25 Omicron patients have been discharged after a negative RT-PCR test. Now, Tamil Nadu reported its first case of Omicron yesterday. The passenger had flown to Chennai from Nigeria via Doha, and Omicron suspected in 6 others who travelled along and a contact. They've all been tested. The results are awaited. All right, and if we talk about Kerala, where 4 new cases have been reported there, is what the health minister has said. 2 of them are contacts of the first Omicron positive case in the state. The 3rd person had returned from Congo and is in Ernakulam. The 4th person in Thiruvananthapuram came from the UK, and the flight details of the 2 new cases have been traced. So they are doing the contact tracing. Now, if we talk about Maharashtra, that's seen the highest number of Omicron cases and in the past has had the highest number of COVID cases in India. COVID curves have now been extended till New Year's Eve. Shops, establishment, malls are to be manned by fully vaccinated people. Only fully vaccinated visitors are allowed at shops and malls. Open and closed spaces to function with only 50% capacity. And for gathering of over 1,000 people, authorities need to be informed. Public transport is available only to fully vaccinated persons. So those are the steps being taken in Maharashtra that has in the past reported the highest number of COVID cases. But more recently, it was Kerala that was reporting the highest number of COVID cases, and now 4 more people in the state have tested positive for the new variant Omicron. Let's go across to Sneha for more. And Sneha, give us more details. Contact tracing is taking place.
Gargi, what we are being told is that all the primary contacts of these 4 people who have been confirmed for Omicron have been informed. Now, who are these 4 people? 2 of these people are actually the primary contacts of the first person who tested positive. So that's the mother and the sister, the mother and the wife. The wife had travelled along with the first Omicron case. And then, of course, the mother had come in direct contact with them as well. So 2 of them. Apart from that, the 3rd person is someone who from Congo and is in Ernakulam. The 4th person is a UK returnee to Thiruvananthapuram. Their primary contacts have been informed, is what the government is saying. Even in the first case, the primary contacts were extremely restricted, and that's perhaps something that is helping the government. Of course, in the first case, 36 people were separated. We'll have to see how many total have been isolated after these 4 confirmations came in last night. All of them are stable as of now, is what we are being told.
All right, Sneha, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. Now, in Maharashtra, where COVID curbs have been extended till New Year's, schools did open. There were flowers, attractive decorations and cartoon characters welcoming students back to classes 1 to 7 of civic schools in Mumbai on Wednesday. As junior schools opened for physical classes, some kids attending a school for the very first time. Saurabh Gupta reports.
Children are thrilled to be back in school. And the reasons vary depending on the age group.
टीचर पढ़ाया इसीलिए अच्छा लगा.
Parents are relieved.
खुल गया स्कूल, सुकून मिल गया. बहुत परेशान करते हैं.
बच्चे भी खुश हुए होंगे.
हाँ, बहुत खुश थे.
मैं ना बोल रही थी कि ये कोविड की वजह से मैं बच्ची बोली नहीं मैं जाऊंगी स्कूल.
Students in middle school are more circumspect about the problems of online schooling. 12-year-old Mehak Upadhyay lives with her family of 7 near the Worli Dairy. a few hundred meters from the school. She says online schooling was difficult to access and understand, especially maths and science. Mehek's father is a taxi driver and she used to attend online school using her mother's phone.
ऑनलाइन अच्छा नहीं रहता है, उसमें समझ नहीं आता है. ऑफलाइन अच्छा रहता है, उसमें सब समझ में आता है. जो भी डाउट रहता है सर से पूछ लेते हैं, सर क्लियर भी कर देते हैं.
A third of the parents signed a consent form to send their children back to school. Over 2 lakh children returned to school after nearly 2 years in around 1,900 BMC schools that reopened for classes from 1 to 7 today.
हमें भी बहुत खुशी हो रही है क्योंकि 2 साल बाद हमें आमने सामने मिल रहे हैं और पढ़ाने में बहुत ही अच्छा लग रहा है.
But due to the emergence of the new variant, there are uncertainties. Some private schools have reopened, while others will reopen in the days to come if there are no further restrictions.
खुशी की बात है कि 2 साल से हमारे पहली से 7वीं के बच्चे आ रहे हैं स्कूल में. सैनिटाइज हमने बिल्डिंग कर लिया है. बच्चों को मास्क हमने प्रोवाइड किया है. हर बेंच पे एक बच्चा बैठेगा. पेरेंट्स को जो डर था, जो भी है, वो कंसर्न उनका काउंसलिंग किया गया.
The state's COVID task force had cleared the reopening of schools with COVID protocols. Experts say the continued closure of schools was affecting the learning experience and childhood of children with disastrous consequences in the long term. But now, with schools having reopened, the challenge is to keep the children safe. In Mumbai, with camera person Ashok Mahadik, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Now, an RBI report on the new variant says the global economy is held hostage to Omicron. The domestic outlook is upbeat, but concerns over Omicron are surfacing. Demand in India faces headwinds if officials impose curbs to contain Omicron. Private consumption in India remains below the pre-pandemic level. The global economy remains hostage to heightened uncertainty, fears of fresh containment measures, and it's a shadow over the global outlook. Omicron is stubborn, inflation and supply bottlenecks. The Omicron wave could have been prevented. The World Health Organization's top scientist, Soumya Swaminathan, told NDTV as the new variant appears set to become the dominant strain across the world. She says we had the tools that we have equitably around the world. It could have been prevented.
There is so much to talk about. So let me just start with a broad setting the stage question. The Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros, said less than 24 hours ago that 77 countries have now reported cases of Omicron. It's spreading at a rate we have not seen with any previous variant. That doesn't sound like very good news.
Well, it may not be good news, but that's what the virus does. This is what was expected. It's entirely predictable, Vasu, and it was in our hands, actually, in the world's hands, to prevent this. If we had used the tools that we have equitably around the world, if we had enough vaccines to vaccinate people around the world, perhaps we could have reduced the chances of this happening. Anyhow, we are where we are now with the Omicron variant. And there's some good news and some not so good news, I would say.
Okay.
And I think 2 years into the pandemic, we have enough knowledge as well as we have the tools in our hands to be able to quickly understand what's going on and to update and strengthen the measures that need to be strengthened. And so every country, I think this is really a time, we have a few weeks to prepare before this surge starts hitting many more countries. And I think looking at what's happening now, particularly in South Africa and the UK, in Denmark and 1 or 2 countries, we can anticipate what is likely to happen in the coming weeks and months.
This is Dr. Tedros putting out the information. Vast gap in rates of COVID-19 vaccination between countries. 41 countries still haven't been able to vaccinate 10% of their population. Only 98 countries have reached, or 98 countries, have not reached 40%. And of course, inequities within the country. Come back to what you were saying about how this could have been stopped if we had done a better job of getting vaccines out there. What went wrong?
Well, what went wrong can be described in many ways, including vaccine nationalism. People have used even stronger words. I think every country's leaders wanted to protect their own people which is perfectly understandable. But in a pandemic, you also have to keep this in mind, that if you're not protecting people around the world, the virus is going to change and come back in a different variant, which is what WHO has been saying from the beginning and which is what's been happening. I think at this point, there is a lot of global production of vaccines. I understand something like 1.5 billion doses are being manufactured, and some companies probably can do even more. Now, if a few countries again start booking these vaccines and almost hoarding them, thinking that they will boost their, some companies CEOs have talked about fourth doses. And if that goes on in a few countries, today I think booster doses are 8 times more per day than the primary doses. So you can already see this happening. And we're going to get back into this cycle where a few countries are vaccinating their populations, but then the virus is circulating and transmitting and creating new variants and then coming back to infect the countries that were vaccinated. Look at the way Omicron has developed. It's able to now overcome some extent of our immunity. So this is why I think we need a global plan and global solidarity. And so far there's been a lot of lip service paid to this. There are, of course, also challenges some countries have in administering vaccines. I think India has a very strong history of and a very strong vaccination program built up over many years. But adult vaccination at this scale is the first time the world's trying to do this. And there are many countries that are just not able to do. They just don't have the health systems. And so they need support. They need funding.
I know that WHO have been talking about vaccine equity for a long time, and I want to come back to that because that is crucial. But I do want to stay for the moment with, as you mentioned, how and where it is spreading. Just look, we'll put up those charts if we can. Look at how it is surging in South Africa and, as you mentioned, UK and Denmark. This is not all Omicron, but Omicron is powering this. Now, the UK government advisor, Dr. Susan Hopkins, said recently, Dr. Swaminathan, that they could hit close to 1 million cases a day by the end of December. Currently, it's about 70,000 cases a day. 1 million a day. That's massive.
And that's because the growth rate of this particular strain, this variant, is very, very fast. It's much faster than even the Delta, which we thought was one of the most transmissible variants that we've seen so far. So what they're seeing now is a doubling time of 2 to 3 days, which means if you start with 1,000 cases today, which is where, the UK was a day or two ago, you go to 4, 8, 16, 24, and very quickly you're up to 1 million. And this is what we call, the exponential growth. And if you look at some of the plots that have been charted, it's a vertical rise in cases. And this is what I think we have to prepare for. Once the virus enters the community, we can try and slow it down. Of course, we can try to contain it. But the chances are that with this kind of transmissibility, they've also shown that amongst household contacts, where the Delta had a secondary attack rate of 10%. So that means in a household, 10% of people got infected. This strain has a 20% secondary attack rate, which means that, everything that the Delta did, this one is doing better and faster.
Right.
With that, time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, unemployed teachers were seen dragged away from an event that was addressed by the Punjab Chief Minister. We'll get you all the details. Welcome back. Union Minister Ajay Mishra, under increasing pressure to quit over his jailed son, who's accused of running over farmers in UP's Lakhimpur Kheri, was seen in a video lunging at a journalist and throwing abuses at the media. He said, "Don't ask those stupid questions." The minister is heard shouting when asked by a journalist about a probe report that recommends new charges against his jailed son. This on a day when the government came under unrelenting pressure from the opposition to sack the minister.
यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, यही साले चोरों ने क्या
Defiant, brazen, abusive, violent and combative. This man is the Minister of State for Home in the Narendra Modi cabinet. Ajay Mishra Teni lost his temper when the media posed the most relevant question of the day about murder charges against his son Ashish for a motorcade running over protesting farmers.
मंत्री जी, आपके बेटे पर जो और धाराएं लग गई हैं उस पर क्या कहेंगे? उस काम के बारे में बात करिए, धाराओं के बारे में नहीं जो SIT नहीं जानती ऐसा है बेवकूफी के सवाल मत करा करो। दिमाग खराब है क्या? हैं? चलो चीजें बैलेंस कर देख ले। अरे फोन बंद कर दे। ऐसे यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, यही उन्होंने एक निर्दोष आदमी के लिए बनाया।
The question evoking an aggressive response. Listen again.
ऐसा है बेवकूफी के सवाल मत करा करो। दिमाग खराब है क्या? हैं? ऐसे यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, उन्होंने एक निर्दोष आदमी के लिए बनाया। शर्म नहीं आती है। क्या जानना चाहते हैं? क्या पूछा? ये SIT से नहीं
On Tuesday, the Supreme Court created special probe team concluded that this was not a case of an accident but was a planned conspiracy. It also asked for the minister's son Ashish Mishra to be named as the primary accused. Ashish at present is in the Lakhimpur Kheri jail. In New Delhi, the Congress party's Rahul Gandhi moved an adjournment motion in both the houses to discuss the Lakhimpur case. It was rejected, but the matter led to ruckus in the parliament.
कार्रवाई चल रही है और सब जुडिस मैटर पे चर्चा नहीं होती है, ये पार्लियामेंट्री रूल्स है.
We want the minister to resign. The prime minister refuses. नहीं, ये कौन सा लॉजिक है कि यहाँ पे जो भी डिस्कशन करवाना चाहते हैं करवा सकते हैं.
The opposition has been demanding for the minister's resignation. Farmer leaders feel that the minister too must also be investigated for a larger conspiracy against the farmers, citing these viral clips of an inflammatory speech 6 days prior to the farmer killings.
The BJP is citing the Ajay Mishra issue as a sub judice matter since the Supreme Court is hearing. But with the opposition strengthened and keen on his resignation, the BJP understands that how are they going to convince the people in the People's Court. With Alok Pandey in Lucknow and camera person Pawan Kumar, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
In a blatant display of high-handedness by the ruling party, protesting teachers at a public gathering of Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi were seen dragged away when they raised their demands. This incident took place on Tuesday when the Chief Minister went to lay the foundation stone for a cement factory, and you can see those protesting teachers just being dragged away by the police from that event. Some unemployed teachers arrived at the scene raising slogans against the government, triggering the state of police force to drag them away and even gagging some of them and taking them away from the venue. Welcome back. Now, the Supreme Court will continue its hearing on the Delhi air pollution crisis today. The Air Quality Commission has filed its response in the top court ahead of that hearing today and said that the decision on reopening of schools and lifting of a construction ban will be taken on or before the 17th of December. Let's go across to Sukirti for more. And Sukirti, this is something that many are waiting for.
Well, yes, absolutely. For the public, these are two crucial decisions that they are looking forward to. The decision on reopening of schools as well as the construction ban. So what the Commission has said that the decision on that will be taken by Friday, and they've also pointed out that this decision is going to be based on the impact that they witness on the air quality after the relaxations that they've already issued for several industrial units. So earlier the Commission had placed several restrictions that certain industries will function for only 8 hours a day or only on certain days of the week, which have now been relaxed. For example, milk and dairy industry has now been allowed to function 24/7. Certain other industries have been exempted for that 8-hour restriction at least for 5 days of the week, so they will have to stay shut on Saturday and Sunday. The other relaxations that they've given at this point of time is that the 6 thermal power plants that had been closed down, they have been allowed to resume functioning again. The reason behind that is being touted as the fact that because of the winter season and the extreme winter conditions that are about to set in, the power demand is set to peak up, and in order to meet those demands, these plants need to function. So those are the bigger points that have been reflected in the response that the Commission has filed in the Supreme Court. Now all eyes on the 3-judge bench led by the Chief Justice of India that will be hearing the case today at 10:30 a.m. and whether they make any changes to the decision that the Commission has made so far.
All right, Sukirti, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. Well, let's now get you the latest on the Ashes and a COVID scare there. Australia captain Pat Cummins will miss the second Ashes test against England starting later Thursday after being deemed a close contact of a positive COVID case. Steve Smith will captain Australia at the Adelaide Oval. The world's #1 fast bowler was at an Adelaide restaurant on Wednesday evening when a person at a neighbouring table was identified as positive for COVID. Cummins isolated when he became aware of the situation. He since returned a negative COVID test, but under South Australia's strict biosecurity rules, he must now isolate for 7 days, meaning Steve Smith will captain the side for the first time since the ball tampering scandal in 2018. The body of Group Captain Varun Singh, the lone survivor of the IF helicopter crash earlier this month that killed Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat and 12 others, will now be flown to Bhopal today by a service aircraft. A decorated air warrior, Group Captain Varun Singh, died at the Air Force's Command Hospital a week after he was seriously injured in the crash near Kannur in Tamil Nadu.
This was the brave Indian Air Force officer who fought for 7 days before becoming the final victim of the horrific Indian Air Force helicopter crash in Kannur. All on board the chopper are now dead, including India's first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat. Fighting 90% burn injuries, Group Captain Varun Singh never regained consciousness. He was on life support at the Command Hospital in Bengaluru, where he was shifted. In a tweet, the Prime Minister wrote, Group Captain Varun Singh served the nation with pride, valour and utmost professionalism. I'm extremely anguished by his passing away. Varun Singh was an inspiration to all around him. A Shaurya Chakra winner for gallantry, his motto in life was to never give up. Facing a series of grave malfunctions on a Tejas fighter, he chose not to eject, landing the jet instead under impossible conditions. Never give up was a message he passed on to students at Army Public School where he studied. Never lose hope. Never think that you cannot be good at what you want to be. It will not come easy. It will take effort. It will require sacrifice of time and comfort. Believe in yourself, work towards it. Don't worry about being mediocre. I was mediocre in school, but then went on to win Shaurya Chakra. Group Captain Singh's father retired as a colonel in the army. His brother is a lieutenant commander in the navy. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children.
Welcome back. Entertainment news now. In the upcoming Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, and the recent Spider-Man movies are part of a deal between 2 of Hollywood's biggest studios, Sony and Marvel. Hollywood bigwigs talk about the secret of their partnership right here on NDTV. Our entertainment editor, Rohit Khilnani, spoke to the president of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, and Sony's Amy Pascal. Both confirmed that they will continue to work with Tom Holland as the lead in Spider-Man movies.
Amy, how has Spider-Man, the character, benefited with this partnership with Marvel?
Well, it opens up so many possibilities for stories that that we couldn't tell without doing it together. So it's a wonderful exploration of the character and allows us to tell all kinds of stories that we couldn't tell. So it's been a fantastic partnership.
Right. And Kevin, how has Marvel benefited? You all already have superheroes of your own. How have you all benefited by having Spider-Man?
Spider-Man is the marquee character of the company. Spider-Man may as well be the logo of the company of Marvel, and being able to incorporate him within our cinematic universe and play a role in shaping his stories in the movies means a lot.
Right. Amy, how many more Spider-Man movies will you all be doing together?
As many as we can.
But any in the works?
There's a movie called Spider-Man No Way Home that comes out at the end of December that we're still working on.
Right. And obviously, Tom Holland is someone you all would like to work with in the future as well?
Yes, of course. How do you make Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man? He's magnificent.
Absolutely. And also, business is one part of it. Keeping the creativity is one big part of it. How do you all manage to do that with, such diverse and different minds?
I think the key to this movie and all of the movies that we've worked on together is we always let the story and the creative guide us. It's never about deals or business or companies or anything else. It all starts with, what story do we want to tell about Peter Parker? That lunch that you were referring to, I think the first thing Kevin said to me is, wouldn't it be cool if Tony Stark made his suit? Right? Yeah. And that little kernel of an idea was what launched all this. But it started with an idea.
And it is, the creative is all the audience cares about. And the truth is, that's pretty much all Amy and I care about.
Right.
And finally, good news for the Durga Puja. UNESCO has said that has accorded heritage status to Kolkata's Durga Puja festival, bringing glory to the country, with Prime Minister Modi and Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee lauding the move. The Department of State for Information and Cultural Affairs in Bengal issued a statement to congratulate the people of the state. The 16th Committee of UNESCO for Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage, in its meeting held on the 15th of December in Paris, inscribed Durga Puja in Kolkata on the representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. More news updates on the other side. Stay with us. Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. Our top story is the Omicron cases in the country, new cases being detected in Tamil Nadu and in Kerala as well. And we'll be going across to Sam and Sneha for all the latest from there. So let's now get you all the numbers that have been coming in. Fresh cases of Omicron being reported from 3 states on Wednesday: Maharashtra, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Maharashtra reported 4 new cases, while Tamil Nadu has reported its first case of this new variant. Kerala also reported 4 fresh cases of Omicron, and with this, India's Omicron tally is around 69 cases in all. If we talk about Maharashtra, well, 4 more patients were found to be infected with the variant, taking the state's tally to 32, which is the highest in the country. 2 from Osmanabad, 1 from Mumbai and 1 from Buldhana. Authorities have said that the patients from Osmanabad had travelled to Sharjah, the patient from Buldhana had travelled to Dubai, and the patient from Mumbai had travelled to Ireland. All these cases are asymptomatic. So far, in fact, 25 Omicron patients have even been discharged in Maharashtra after a negative RT-PCR test. Well, let's now get you the latest on Tamil Nadu and the first case of Omicron being reported there. Let's go across to Sam for more. Sam, give us the details.
Gargi, this particular passenger had travelled from Nigeria. En route, he had transited at Doha before coming to Chennai, and he's a 47-year-old man from Chennai who was earlier found to be a S gene dropout. And then the sample was sent for confirmation. The National Institute of Virology has now confirmed it, and 6 of his family members who had travelled along with him also show symptoms of S gene dropout, and they're also waiting for their results, but they suspect they could have also have contracted Omicron. And one more contact who had traveled along with them has also been now put under isolation at the King's Institute in Chennai. And one of them is a 16-year-old minor, and authorities say all of them except the minor child had taken both doses. They are found to be asymptomatic with not much of severe symptoms, and authorities say this is no sign for panic, but they are using this opportunity to encourage people to get themselves fully inoculated. Particularly Tamil Nadu lags behind in the second dose, and they're trying to encourage people to take that as well to make sure they are fully protected. How full inoculation also protects them and saves lives in terms of any Omicron threat. And surveillance again has been intensified at all the international airports. So far, a little over 40 international passengers have tested positive, and 3 of them have fully recovered and have been discharged from hospitals. And authorities again would continue what they call as mega vaccination campaigns twice a week across Tamil Nadu, and health authorities reiterate that people do not have to get scared but use this as an opportunity to get themselves, particularly those who have taken the first dose and have been delaying the second one, to get it done as early as possible. And in terms of numbers again, Tamil Nadu hovers around 400 cases every day, and Chennai and Coimbatore account for a bulk of these cases daily. Gargi.
All right, Sam, thanks so much for joining us. With that, let's go across to Sneha now. And Sneha, 4 new cases of Omicron detected in the state. Give us the details.
Well, that's right, Gargi. In fact, the latest 4 cases that have confirmed for Omicron, the results came in late last night. And according to the health minister, 2 of these are actually the primary contacts of the first Omicron positive case, that is, as well as the mother, who was both of their primary contacts. So, but all of them are stable, is what the health minister has said. There are 2 other people. One is a person who returned from Congo in Ernakulam, and the other is a person who returned from UK in Thiruvananthapuram. All of them are stable, are in isolation, are under medical care. There are also, around 30 samples were sent to the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology over the last 3 days for testing for Omicron. All of these were mostly, except for the 4 of these, were people who had tested positive for COVID-19 at various airports. We are yet to get a clarification whether these 4 that have tested positive are part of all 30 samples, or there are testings which are currently underway. But nonetheless, it is going to be a continuous process as more and more samples are sent to the Center for Biotechnology as more and more test positive for Omicron, as and when more test positive for Omicron at the airports. The minister reiterating the basic COVID protocols need to be kept in place, whether it be taking masks, wearing masks, or maintaining distance, and of course getting vaccinated. Well, that's what the situation right now is. No sense of panic is what officials are reiterating again and again.
All right, Sneha, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So 4 fresh cases there in Kerala. Now in Mumbai, COVID curbs have been extended till the New Year's Eve. Shops, establishments, malls to be manned by fully vaccinated people. Only fully vaccinated visitors allowed at malls and shops. Open and closed spaces to function with only 50% capacity. And for gatherings of over 1,000 people, authorities need to be informed. Public transport is available only to fully vaccinated persons. Now look at the impact of the new variant on the economy, and the RBI, and an RBI report on this says that the global economy held hostage to Omicron. The domestic outlook is upbeat, but concerns over Omicron are surfacing. Demand in India faced headwinds if officials impose curbs to contain Omicron. Private consumption in India remains below the pre-pandemic level. The global economy remains hostage to heightened uncertainty. Fears of fresh containment measures are there, and so a shadow over the global outlook with Omicron, stubborn inflation and supply bottlenecks. Welcome back. The Union Cabinet has passed a proposal to raise the legal age of marriage for women from 18 years to 21 years, making it the same as men. Wednesday's clearance is based on recommendations submitted to the Niti Aayog in December 2020 by the Centre's task force, which was constituted to examine matters pertaining to age of motherhood, maternal mortality rate, improvement of nutrition levels, etc. Let's go across to Akhilesh now for more. So, Akhilesh, now the government will be introducing an amendment to clear this and make the marriage age of women 21.
That's right, Gargi. We've been told by the sources that the government aims to bring amendment to the existing laws in the current session of Parliament, which is going on, which will conclude on 23rd of this month. And the Cabinet has cleared the proposal yesterday. In fact, it's a very important topic because the Prime Minister himself, last year had mentioned about this in his address to the nation from the Red Fort on the Independence Day. And he has clearly said that the government is moving in this direction. The government, in fact, had constituted a task force last year in June, which had submitted the report last year in December, and after exactly a year, the government has moved forward in this direction. The government believes that this move will help the women, especially because to avoid the malnutrition and also to bring down the MMR and also to improve the wider, it will have wider impacts on the society, also on the economical and also the society's health. This is what the aim behind this move, and this has been in pipeline for a very long time, and after this move all the existing laws will be amended and the marriage age for both women and men will be 21 years.
All right, Akhilesh, thanks so much for joining us with that. Now, Union Minister Ajay Mishra, under increasing pressure to quit over his jailed son, who is accused of running over farmers in UP's Lakhimpur Kheri, was seen in a video lunging at a journalist and throwing abuses at the media. Don't ask these stupid questions, the minister is heard shouting when a journalist asked him about the probe report that recommends new charges against his son Ashish Mishra. This on a day when the government came under unrelenting pressure from the opposition to sack the minister.
यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, यही साले चोरों ने
Defiant, brazen, abusive, violent and combative. This man is the Minister of State for Home in the Narendra Modi cabinet. Ajay Mishra Teni lost his temper when the media posed the most relevant question of the day about murder charges against his son Ashish for a motorcade running over protesting farmers.
मंत्री जी, आपके बेटे पर जो और धाराएं लग गई हैं उस पर क्या कहेंगे? उस काम के बारे में बात करो, धाराओं के बारे में नहीं एसआईटी नहीं जानती। ऐसा है, बेवकूफी के सवाल मत करा करो। दिमाग खराब है क्या? हैं? चलो, चीजें बंद कर देंगे। अरे फोन बंद कर दे। ऐसे यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, यही उन्होंने एक निर्दोष आदमी के लिए बनाया।
The question evoking an aggressive response. Listen again.
ऐसा है, बेवकूफी के सवाल मत करा करो। दिमाग खराब है क्या? हैं? ऐसे यही हमारे मीडिया वाले हैं ना, उन्होंने एक निर्दोष आदमी के लिए बनाया। शर्म नहीं आती है। क्या जानना चाहते हैं? क्या पूछा? ये एसआईटी से नहीं
On Tuesday, the Supreme Court created special probe team concluded that this was not a case of an accident but was a planned conspiracy. It also asked for the minister's son Ashish Mishra to be named as the primary accused. Ashish at present is in the Lakhimpur Kheri jail. In New Delhi, the Congress Party's Rahul Gandhi moved an adjournment motion in both the houses to discuss the Lakhimpur case. It was rejected, but the matter led to ruckus in the parliament.
कार्रवाई चल रही है और सब जुडिस मैटर पे चर्चा नहीं होती है, ये पार्लियामेंट्री रूल्स है.
We want the minister to resign. The prime minister refuses. नहीं, ये कौन सा लॉजिक है कि यहाँ पे जो भी डिस्कशन करवाना चाहते हैं करवा सकते हैं.
The opposition has been demanding for the minister's resignation. Farmer leaders feel that the minister too must also be investigated for a larger conspiracy against the farmers, citing these viral clips of an inflammatory speech 6 days prior to the farmer killings.
The BJP is citing the Ajay Mishra issue as a sub judice matter since the Supreme Court is hearing. But with the opposition strengthened and keen on his resignation, the BJP understands that how are they going to convince the people in the People's Court. With Alok Pandey in Lucknow and camera person Pawan Kumar, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
In a blatant display of high-handedness by the ruling dispensation, protesting teachers at a public gathering of Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi were seen being dragged away when they raised their demands. This incident took place on Tuesday when the Chief Minister went to lay the foundation stone for a cement factory. You can see these teachers who had come to protest there against the government being dragged away, even gagged by the police. Time now for a break. Coming up on the other side, we talk about Omicron impact in India after fresh cases are reported in Maharashtra, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Fresh cases of the Omicron variant of coronavirus have now been reported in the country from 3 states, Maharashtra, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. These were reported yesterday. Now, Maharashtra reported 4 new cases on Wednesday, while Tamil Nadu has reported its first case of Omicron. Kerala has reported 4 fresh cases of Omicron. And with this, India's tally is currently at around 69. So, a lot of concern around the world over this new strain of coronavirus that's spreading rapidly at an unprecedented rate is what the World Health Organization has said. To talk more about this, we're joined by Dr. Anupama Gotimukula, MD, President, American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. Thank you so much for joining us there from the US, and Dr. Nagarjuna Mathura, Consultant, Pulmonology and Sleep Medicine, Yashoda Hospitals, Hyderabad. Dr. Nagarjuna, first to you, what is your view of these cases of Omicron right now? We've only been testing those who've come in from abroad, 69 cases or so being reported, but clearly, as the World Health Organization says, it's everywhere. It's spread in various countries and it's spreading at an unprecedented rate.
Good morning. So what, as a health expert, we feel is that definitely we are looking at sort of a third pandemic in our country. And it is very likely that Omicron is going to create a significant surge in the number of cases. This is for 3 reasons which we feel so. First is that the rate of infectivity. So the data, whatever has been generated, clearly says that Omicron is much more transmissible than Delta. To the tune that it said that if it is 2 to 4 times more contagious than the Delta. The Delta itself has created such a havoc in the second wave that if you have a virus which is 4 times more faster, more transmissible, then it is very likely that the number of cases are going to go up. Second, very important thing is that the vaccine escape phenomenon.
Yes.
So till now, whatever viruses we had, they were not causing second infections. So people who were actually double vaccinated, who had recovered from a COVID, had a much lesser chance of developing second infection. But the data from the Western world, data from the UK, data from the Ireland, where 70 to 90% of the population are already double vaccinated, even in such countries, Omicron is creating a significant surge in the number of cases. So if you look at a country like ours, where only 30% of them are double vaccinated, and even if these 30% stand a chance of getting a reinfection, then it is something which is very, very serious. The third important reason why we feel that Omicron can significantly go up is the fact that people have just regained normalcy. So there are gatherings everywhere, there are family functions, people are actually going to the theaters, they're partying, the travel has regained. So the health awareness amongst the public that the Omicron can actually create a havoc is still less.
Right,
so
and massive political rallies as well. Let's not forget that's where we've been seeing the huge numbers of people gathering. Dr. Anupama, in India currently it's really this wait and watch. It's a lot of uncertainty, especially with the media, the doctors, as you can see, waiting and watching. The public at large is out and about. But what is the situation there in the US right now?
So in United States right now we have 3% of the new cases are Omicron, and so it's slowly sweeping under the blanket. But good thing is vaccine. So in United States, 61% are double vaccinated, and recent data what we saw is those who got the booster dose are almost 100% safe. So it's a very mild variant because of it is multiple mutated variant. So the infection rate is high, but it's milder version of all the COVID we have seen in the past. So I think the message is to get vaccinated, and because it's a very highly transmissible virus, you don't want even to get the mildest cold symptoms. So wearing mask is always good. So please wear mask wherever we go outside. When you step out of your house, I think we have to wear the mask and reduce this spread of the virus. I think it's a good virus in the way it was Alpha and Delta, but this is the mildest variant. I don't think we should panic, but at the same time, we should follow the precautions, wearing mask and getting vaccinated. This is the message we would like to give on behalf of American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin.
All right. We also have Dr. Rajesh Parekh joining us. And Dr. Rajesh Parekh, seeing what's happening in the UK right now with, thousands of cases, the maximum they've reported in a single day, they're being reported over 70,000 cases. What is your view, and balancing that with the information so far that does say that the cases seem to be mild in most of the individuals who are testing positive. In India, at least, most are asymptomatic.
Right. I think the signs have been loud and clear for quite some time now, and it is about time we paid attention. We are perhaps not that worried. Perhaps we are putting a set of complacency because the cases are not severe and because there have been virtually no deaths, just one or two here and there. And in that, Gargi, the danger is that a large number of people will continue to get infected by this highly transmissible mutant variant. And although some of these will go to the hospital, that will become a large number in itself. And then, beds will not be available for patients who need to be admitted for other illnesses. I keep reminding everyone that in the 1 month following the first 3 cases being detected in Botswana, while there was only 1 death due to Omicron, there were 3 million deaths. That's a lack of deaths every day due to other illnesses, which are either preventable or curable or treatable, such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, diarrhea, depression, a whole lot of other things. So we must not lose focus on the fact that we want to minimize hospitalization. And as has been appropriately pointed out, the right measures. To that, I only have to add, we need to get on with our boosters very fast, particularly for our vulnerable population, immunocompromised patients, and healthcare workers who have been long overdue for their boosters.
Right, because that is a demand that's been rising more and more. Dr. Anupama was talking about how in the US they have booster doses, and in those people it's found that the Omicron doesn't have that much of an impact. So Dr. Nagarjuna, really we need to all push more to get those booster doses, but at the same time, as you pointed out, we have low so far we haven't reached that 60% vaccination for all our adult population. So it's really a balancing act, and at the same time we also have information that we have vaccines that are about to expire this month. So, given all of this, what is your view?
Now, I think vaccination is something which has to be prioritized. So people who have not got the first dose should get the first dose. Who haven't got the second dose should get the second dose. Who have got both the doses should get a booster. I think in 3 to 6 months after the second dose, we're seeing that the immunity is waning down. And definitely the data from across the world says that having one extra booster will definitely increase your immunity levels. So vaccines, definitely yes. Boosters also, we would strongly recommend that the government has to come forward, and it is high time that the government actually officially declares booster dose that it has to be taken. But it's also important for us to know that we already have Omicron in our country, and the doubling time for Omicron is hardly 2 days. So even if we roll out boosters now, by the time a significant proportion of our Indians get vaccinated with the booster, it will be likely 2 to 3 months from today. So just because we are having boosters, it doesn't mean that we will follow the social norms. So because at this point of time, the most important thing which can halt the progress of Omicron is two things. We should ramp up our genomic sequencing. We should expedite the genomic sequencing, identify all the cases faster, isolate them as strongly as possible, because even though the data is coming that up to 20% of the Omicron positive people are not found, which is actually the fact, because many of them are actually absconding. We don't know where they are. So a very strict isolation is required. Plus, a booster is definitely there because it's going to help us in the long run.
Right. Dr. Rajesh Parekh, if we take a look, visuals all around in Maharashtra and Mumbai especially, yes, some measures are being announced, restrictions in the face of this new variant. But if we look, we have political rallies taking place, UP elections are around the corner. So on one hand, you have the center and the health secretary telling states various measures and ramp up this and that. But on the face of it, with the fatigue having set in, people really just don't seem so bothered. What can be done?
Oh, absolutely, Gargi. This is deja vu. We're just having a slow replay, as they do in sports sometimes, but this is a very sad replay of what happened before the second wave. Political rallies, Kumbh Mela, festivals, people unmasked because they had got over the first wave and were now lulled into a false sense of security. And the only solace, if one wants to grapple for some solace, is that we are not dealing with severity and lethality. But I think we need to learn from the past because, as has been said, those who do not learn from the past are condemned to repeat it.
Right. And finally, Dr. Anupama, this has also brought the focus on vaccine equity and the need for nations like the US, the UK to ensure that more vaccines are there for other parts of the world as well. Otherwise, we're all at the threat of new variants emerging.
Right. Yeah, you are right, Gargi. Yes, there is inequity in the vaccines. Some countries do not have access. Some countries have surplus, and there's a lot of wastage also because of the expiration. So I think United States is helping most of the countries who are not having vaccine. They are sending vaccines and they're helping. And Pfizer and Moderna are going to go in every country pretty soon. They're ramping up the production, so it's a good thing. But right now, this is the most fastest spreading virus. We do not have time for vaccine. We have to learn some lessons from the first and second waves. This is a third wave. If we still did not learn our lessons, I think we are behind in our thought processes. But acutely right now is wearing masks. It's very, very important. Wear masks and use as much hand sanitizer as possible. Social distancing is not possible because of the winter and coziness in most of the Western world. It's the winter time, so it's inevitable that people stay indoors. So the virus will spread very fast if even one family. But what we noticed is vaccine is definitely helping those who had.
Right.
It does help in a family when wife, husband, both are exposed. One of them did not get the booster and one got the booster. The one who got the booster is tested negative. So this is interesting finding where we saw it here. So right. I think the booster is definitely helping, but since there's no time, and this is a early rise of cases before it picks up to thousands and thousands and
no,
thousands.
Absolutely, what we're seeing happening in the
now. Yeah, we
right.
need to act now, and we should ramp up the vaccines. I will give you one advice for India. I know I'm from India. I stay in United States, but my heart is in India. But we have every village, go get the camps, get the vaccine, go village by village, and let all of us get vaccinated. We can help in any way, API, to see how we can help out. But I think the message is vaccines and masks.
Right, we need to really push vaccines, vaccination drive again in all the villages like we were doing earlier, and of course push for boosters, all of us. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gargi.
Thank you.